Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're jumping right into the explosive, totally involuntary, and honestly fascinating biological mechanics of why we sneeze. We all do it, usually without a second thought. But as we're going to see, a sneeze is way more than just a little tickle in the nose. It's a massive, highly coordinated, full-body event orchestrated by your central nervous system. So let's look at a classic everyday mystery. You've probably noticed that sometimes a sneeze is just a one-off, but a lot of times they hit you in pairs, or even a rapid-fire set of three. Dr. Jordan S. Josephson, a prominent sinus specialist, actually explains this perfectly. It's like a conveyor belt. That first sneeze, it serves to loosen the irritant from your mucous membrane. The second one moves that now loosened particle up to the front of your nose. And the third sneeze is the grand finale that finally blasts it completely out of your body. It's just a highly efficient, step-by-step clearing mechanism. And when that final blast happens, it is ridiculously powerful. Think about it. Sneezing is basically your nose screaming, "Get out!" It uses a high-speed airflow that can actually hit nearly 100 kilometers per hour. Yeah, that is literally highway speed, blasting right out of your face. It's this vital physiological defense mechanism, evolved to clear your respiratory tract of invaders just as violently and quickly as possible. Moving on to Section 1, the anatomy of a sneeze, the 5-step sequence. It's this simple yet incredibly elegant biological chain reaction. Step 1, an irritant, like dust, pollen, maybe a cold virus, gets into the nasal cavity. Step 2, sensitive nerve endings in the lining of your nose detect that intruder. Step 3, those nerves fire off a rapid signal to your brain, kicking off the reflex. Step 4, your brain coordinates a massive, deep breath in, your chest and throat muscles tightly contract, pressure builds, and then boom, the vocal cords suddenly open and air just rushes out. And as we just saw, step 5 is simply to repeat the whole process if that stubborn irritant hasn't been completely evicted. Next up, Section 2, the neural chain reaction. Now that urge to sneeze doesn't just magically appear out of nowhere. Irritants actually trigger specific receptors, like TRPV1, that live on the sensory fibers deep inside your nasal tissue. Once those are activated, a signal sparks and travels down this massive neural highway called the trigeminal nerve, carrying the alert straight into your brainstem. Think of the trigeminal nerve as your body's primary facial alarm system. It's incredibly sensitive and it's constantly on the lookout for any chemical or mechanical stimulation. When it trips because it spots a foreign invader, say a speck of dust or a nasty pathogen, it sends an absolute red alert to your central nervous system, telling it that an emergency evacuation of the nasal passage is required right now. So the key here is that these signals reach a very specific command center in the brainstem, which is the medulla oblongata. Inside the medulla is the actual sneeze-evoking zone, or SEZ. Kind of a funny name. But once the SEZ gets that distress signal, it starts talking to the respiratory group to recruit your muscles, your diaphragm, your intercostals, your vocal cords. It flawlessly orchestrates the precise timing of that deep breath and the violent muscle contraction needed for the big blast. Which brings us to Section 3, quirks and oddities, strange triggers. What happens when this incredibly complex wiring gets just a little bit crossed? Surprisingly, informal surveys show that anywhere from 10 to 35% of people experience something called the photic sneeze reflex. You might know it affectionately as ACHO syndrome. It's this quirky genetic trait where simply stepping out of a dark room into bright sunlight triggers an uncontrollable bout of sneezing. Wild, right? And bright light is definitely not the only odd trigger out there. While sunlight trips the alarm because of an overexcitability of the visual cortex crossing wires with the trigeminal nerve, other folks experience sneezes just from having a completely full stomach. That's a real condition known as sneeziation. Some people even sneeze in response to sexual ideation or a sudden blast of cold air. It just perfectly highlights how deeply interconnected our autonomic nervous system really is. A strong signal in one area can accidentally spill over and trip the sneeze alarm. Let's jump to Section 4, busted common sneeze myths. Okay, we have all heard that persistent playground rumor. Your heart completely stops when you let out a massive achoo. Honestly, some people claim this is exactly why we say bless you in the first place, but we gotta ask, is there any actual cardiological truth to this? Well, the medical reality is no, your heart does not skip a beat. When you take that huge deep breath and bear down to sneeze, you're causing a sudden increase in intrathoracic pressure. That's the pressure inside your chest. This, combined with a quick spike in vagal nerve tone, can briefly slow your heart rate down. But for it to be medically considered a stopped heart, you'd need a full 3-second pause. Cardiologists confirm that sneezing simply does not cause that. Your heart just alters its rhythm for a split second, and then you're right back to normal. Here is another super fascinating question that researchers get asked constantly. Can a gnarly bout of sneezing happen while you're deep in slumber? Turns out the idea of sleeping sneezes is entirely a myth. When you enter REM sleep, your body undergoes a state of muscle atonia. Basically, it's a temporary paralysis of your motor neurons to stop you from acting out your dreams. You literally do not have the muscle control required to execute a sneeze. Now, if your nasal passages get severely irritated at night by, say, dry air or dust mites, your body's alarm system will actually force you to wake up first, regain that muscle control, and then perform the reflex. So if you're sneezing, you are, by definition, awake. Let's move to Section 5, the splash zone, disease transmission. When you get a viral infection or a bacterial bug, they induce massive localized inflammation right there in your nasal cavity. This inflammation highly stimulates those nasal sensory neurons we talked about earlier. In a very real sense, the virus is hijacking your sneeze reflex. The pathogen is literally using your own biological defense mechanism against you, effectively turning you into a high-powered pathogen-spreading machine designed to infect new hosts. And the sheer scale of this transmission, it's staggering. Let's directly compare a cough to a sneeze. A single cough produces roughly 3,000 droplets, but a single sneeze, it expels an unbelievable 40,000 virus-containing droplets. Plus, because of that 100-kilometer-per-hour speed we mentioned, a sneeze can propel this turbulent cloud of infectious material 7 to 8 meters away. That makes sneezing a primary driver of community disease spread. And guys, the danger doesn't just end when the sound of the sneeze fades. Not only do those 40,000 droplets travel across the entire room, but the smallest aerosolized particles can hang invisibly suspended in the air for up to 10 minutes. They are just waiting there to be inhaled by someone walking through that exact space long after you've already left the room. So the next time you feel that familiar tickle firing off in your trigeminal nerve, I want you to remember the sheer explosive science happening right there in your brainstem. You are about to unleash a 100-kilometer-per-hour biological event. So please, practice proper sneeze hygiene and cover your nose and mouth. After seeing exactly how complex and powerful a single sneeze really is, it kind of leaves you wondering, what other involuntary superpowers is your nervous system hiding from you right now?